the Marketing Corner, hosted by Sean Campbell, and we are thrilled to have you with us today. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned small business owner, or a marketing pro looking to sharpen your skills, you're in the right place. We're all about bringing you the latest insights, strategies, and real-world advice to help you thrive in today's competitive market. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Here's your host, Sean Campbell.
Good Saturday afternoon, everybody. You're listening to the Marketing Corner. I'm your host, Sean Campbell. First and foremost, thank you, David Bradley, for filling in for me last week while I was having fun at Barrett Jackson in Scottsdale with all the bougies. I did not fit in well at all.
Buy a Porsche like I asked you to?
No, I did not. You know what, Mo? I didn't see a lot of Porsches, period. It was weird, yeah. It was very odd. There wasn't a lot of, there's a handful. Usually there's rows and rows and rows. But this year, and I was specifically looking for a few Porsches for you, I did not see a lot. It was odd.
They probably kept them all in California.
Probably. Yeah. They're waiting for you there, my friend. So, Mo Rousso is our co-host today, and we have a very special guest, Rob Siegler, who I'm going to introduce to a moment here. But, Mo, I do want to thank you for lunch yesterday again. I'm honored to have lunch with you every other week.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I enjoy them as well.
You really inspire me every time I have lunch. And yesterday, if you want to talk about your projects later on in the show, I'm going to leave it up to you.
All right.
But it was phenomenal. I was so hyped. I'm always like super excited after our lunches. And so I just want to let everybody know I appreciate it and always get something. And you always inspire me. And we just sit there and eat chicken and drink soda, and I leave happy. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Rob Siegler, you're a special guest here. First time you and I met. Why, Mo, did you pick Rob to hang out with us today?
Because for those who have listened to this show, we always seem to have as guests guys that are currently in business and talk about their strategies and the challenges that they're facing in business and how they grew their businesses and so forth. And I thought it might be interesting to our listeners to hear about someone who successfully built a business and then made the decision to exit that business. And so Rob did successfully exit his business, so I thought he might have a very interesting story to tell about his whole process around that.
Yeah. And Rob, you're saying you just got back from Mexico City?
I did.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
One of the safest cities I've ever been to.
And you came back just for the show?
Actually, I was bribed at one of those lunches with Mo. He said, "Hey, can I have you on talk radio?" I go, "Really?" He goes, "I'll pay for lunch." I'm like, sounds like that's a shrewd deal there.
Yeah. I love this idea, Mo, because you're right. Normally we have people that are right in the pocket, going through their struggles. But, if you don't mind, let's talk about the exit strategy. What did you do, Rob, to really position yourself to sell when you wanted to sell your business?
Well, I think the sale started several years before we actually sold it. And that's actually when Mo, I was introduced to Mo about probably 2 years before I sold it, around there.
Yeah.
So I actually exited two separate businesses. One was a construction business that was sold to his client. And that was just shortly, or actually during the pandemic, I believe, part of it, or towards the tail of it.
It was a tail end, yeah.
And, I got to see their operation because it was a close sale. That was our construction company that we sold out of. And I learned a lot from the sale itself about how to do things. But at the same token, I think I became a much better business owner towards the end when I was leaving the business than during the previous 17 years before that. So that but I will say this, I was lucky. I'm very blessed and fortunate. I sold my business where I believe 80% of entrepreneurs don't sell out. They usually it's an asset sale, so it's usually on the decline. So when I got the opportunity to sell my business and we were on an upswing, a trajectory that was going up, that seemed to be the right time. Plus, at the same time, our franchise, I was a franchise in Tucson here, our franchisor sold to Blackstone, which was a big private equity firm. And when it sold, we got green lighted to buy more franchises at the time, which I did. but they just had a better understanding of business in general. So I think the sale of Blackstone to Blackstone really put us in a different realm of possibilities.
Yeah. Why don't you tell our listeners what kind of business you had?
So I own the ServPro franchise, which is the largest water and fire disaster restoration company in America as a franchise system. Currently, all the disasters are happening in California. There's loads and loads of crews over there that are, trying to get the Pacific Palisades back up on its feet. I keep in touch with a lot of those guys over there. So I was involved in a lot of hurricane cleanup, local things that happen here. Obviously, the monsoons, were triggered by that. We did a lot of work on the residential side as well as commercial business. So, and then at the same time, we also did and performed the rebuild of the housing and the structures that were damaged by whatever happened.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were successful in scaling your business. So let's just spend a little bit of time up front to kind of set the stage. So when you bought the business, about how many employees did it have? And then when you finally exited, how big did you grow it to?
Okay, so let's go back 20 years. So I was an insurance agent with American Family up in Sun City, West Arizona. I was dying inside as a person. I don't think I've ever been an insurance agent with a bunch of older people, and I'm 27 or 30 years old.
Wow.
And I did not fit in very well out there, but I needed something a little more inspiring. And some guy came in my office and gave me a bill for a service that he had done to one of my clients' houses. I'm like, my God, I should be in your business. So needless to say, about a year later, I wound up buying the first of 4 franchises. 2 were in Phoenix, and then ultimately 2 were down here in Tucson. And then in the purchase in Tucson happened in 2005. So there was we bought an existing franchise from somebody that was leaving, and we had no employees. We started from zero here. We just took over an asset sale.
Okay.
And started from zero. I went to school to U of A, so I have that.
Bear down.
Bear down.
Yep.
I have that spirit in me, and I wanted to get back to the last place I had fun, which was Tucson, Arizona, honestly.
Yeah.
So we started, and we brought down just 2 guys. So it was 3 guys. And we started this business in 2005, and then when we exited the business in 2022, the ServPro franchise had it was about 40 employees.
Wow.
And prior to that, when we were running the construction company, that had about 10 employees that we sold off.
Wow.
So a total of about 50 employees.
Under 50, just shy of it. Sure.
So you started basically with you and your wife?
Correct.
And then you grew that to 50 employees.
Correct, yes.
Okay, over a period of
23 years.
23 years.
Yeah.
That's how long my marriage lasted. So we might have had similar thoughts for an exit strategy.
Yeah. Looks like we have someone on the line. Is Charles there available for a comment, John?
Yeah. I apologize if this is slightly off the topic of closing out a business, but when it comes to rebuilding, and you've got an expert there, your gentleman from Service Pro, an expert on rebuilding. Is it possible to simply abandon the idea of all the new permitting processes and just assume when you're going to rebuild a house, as long as you're going to rebuild the same house, that they already have a permit, they got one originally, and that's still in force? And it can make building into either waive or waiver the modern process of the building permit to simply get people back in their houses. And I'll take my answer on the air because I don't want to eat up your airtime. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Charles.
Real quick on that is no. The permit process there's 2 permit processes. One that's in Maricopa County, and then there's one in Pima County. Maricopa County has something very similar. It's still a permit process. It's called an as-built. So you're building the house back or the structure back to what it was. But because we have upgrades, and especially in Pima County where housing is so much older than most, you have to bring things up to code. So there is a permit process. It is a bit of a stretch sometimes to get through, but it's important that you go through that process, and there's no way to avoid it.
Yeah, cool. And thanks, Charles, for calling in. I appreciate that. And if anybody else has any questions or comments as we go through the show, the number is 520-790-2040. That's 520-790-2040. Also, I was experimenting a little bit before we came on, and we are live on TikTok. You can find us at sean.campbell.cmo on TikTok right now. So leave me some gifts. Pay for the show, please, today on TikTok.
Send us stuff from Temu.
Yeah. So I, real quick in this last minute before we get to the first break, I made a comment on a big TikTok platform that was talking about NBA basketball. And I mentioned how much I did not like NBA basketball anymore. And
if you like 3-point shooting.
My comment went crazy. It went crazy. Like tens of thousands of people responded to it and stuff like that. So I think that's why TikTok allows me to be live now. It's not just anybody. You got to be somewhat of a celeb on social.
Wow. Did they agree with your assessment of the NBA?
Yes, everybody did. So we are wrapping up the first segment of the Marketing Corner. My name is Sean Campbell. We'll be back in a little bit. We are back in the Marketing Corner. I am your host, Sean Campbell, with co-host today, Mo Rousso, and very special guest, Rob Siegler. And we took a different angle today because we're actually talking about exiting a business and what Rob did to kind of position himself and enjoy his life as he is right now. So did you have a question about the scaling process, Mo?
Yeah, just I think might be interesting to our listeners. So you took your business basically from 0 to 100 over a period of time. And were there any specific challenges that you consistently faced in your scaling process?
I have a degree in accounting and finance, and I thought I was really pretty smart, and I was probably smarter than most people. At least I understood financial statements. Mm-hmm. But when it came to scaling, the area that I struggled the most was with the personnel, the employees, how to manage them. Even though I had a little bit of management experience, I would say that was my biggest hurdle, my biggest roadblock, and that's the one thing I didn't get a chance to truly accomplish as far as scaling. We hired a CFO, a fractional CFO, and he taught us how to read a cash flow a statement of cash flows. So we had a different perspective on how to do the financials, and since I had a background in accounting, at least I understood what he was trying to do, and we had metrics that we could apply to it. But then when your client, who happened to be my friend Russ, when I sold the construction company to him, he introduced me to Vern Harnish and Scaling Up. He's like, hey, you got to read this book. And I'm not a big reader, to be honest with you. I don't have that reading stamina. So I went ahead and did the audiobook, and I'm like, Russ, this doesn't make any sense to me. And he goes, no, you got to read the book. And started going through the book, and it introduced a lot of different ideas. But this was towards the tail end of our career, my career. But that was the area that I had the most difficulty in, was how do I now apply metrics to the employees to see, do I have the right employee on the bus, the right employee in the right seat on the bus with me? And, that's kind of where Mo came in. We were talking about, hey, we should, we're going to continue growing this business. This is the next step. You got the financial part down fairly well. Granted, there's plenty of room for improvement, but this other area of the employees, and it came down to one question. He sat there in front of my wife and I and said, in 1 year, if you hire me, you won't recognize any employees here. You won't know who they are.
Wow.
And that was a gut punch. It's like, we were a family business. And I think the funny thing about family businesses is that you never get rid of family. But sometimes you need to. And we were, I'll say, I wouldn't say held hostage, but it was difficult for me to terminate people, and we seemed to cave into everybody's whims. So we weren't holding them accountable. So that's the area that I really had a struggle in, and I think that's true probably almost all businesses, especially family small businesses. You're afraid to get rid of an employee, yet they're toxic. And they're killing your culture, or they're creating havoc in your organization. But because you're afraid to retrain somebody new, or just the amount of effort it takes to get somebody up to speed, you put up with a lot of unnecessary aggravation.
When you go to sell a business, how important though is employee retention?
Because they look at it huge.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have 40 employees. They're all here for 10 years plus. And so we were taking very good care of the employees, but were they actually taking care of us?
Right.
When we started looking at some metrics, is like, oh wow, you want more money on a raise and it was always at monsoon season where
you really
we need them the most. We're like held hostage, you know. It's like, so it's like, okay, here it comes. It'll be another $2 an hour, but are you going to do more work for me? Well, I don't know, you know.
Oh yeah. We also, in the first segment, Rob talked a little bit about franchises, right?
Sure.
So I do have a few questions. I mean, if someone's interested in looking to be a franchisee, what are some things that they should be looking for from the franchisor?
When I got into it blind. I didn't even know who ServPro was, really. It was just another franchisee that came and talked to me. But you should interview other franchisees around the country and see what the experience is, and gauge the level of support that they perceived from the franchisor.
Yeah.
The franchisor's responsibility, it's a marketing organization. They're doing the heavy lifting. They're giving you a basic roadmap that and some rules to follow. But for the most part, it's up to you to do that, and it's up to you still to market on your behalf, on their behalf a little bit, yours as well. But I would talk to other franchise owners and see, are they giving you the value? Is the franchise organization, do you see advertisement from them? What's their impact in whatever industry? You know, I was in the service industry. I was in the homes repair service industry. You know, we were getting direct contracts with insurance carriers. So there was a value that I derived that said, okay, it made sense for me to go into this field or into this, to buy this franchise. A lot of franchises are just a name, a branding thing, and it stops there. With ServPro, they actually had service contracts, and they were giving you leads. And a lot of us really didn't market. We had marketing reps, but it was mostly, I'll call them candy girls, that would go around to the various centers of influence, filling up candy dishes. And we went through several over the years. And but you saw on TV their domination as far as in the industry. You can see that they're advertising on TV. You can see that there's some brand recognition. People would call you up and say, like it never happened before, or like it never even happened. So they, you could tell that there was some value that was, that we're perceived. On the flip side, there's a lot of rules, and you have to play by their rules. And that was somewhat difficult for an entrepreneur to stay, within those rules. And up in the Phoenix marketplace, there's a lot of crossing paths with other franchisees, and they were pitting each other. Down in Tucson, different marketplace. I was pretty much the only one here after a couple years, and I had the lay of the land, so I didn't have some of the difficulties that they had up in Phoenix. But down in Tucson, it was a great opportunity.
So if you were to consider buying another franchise, what are like the top 3 to 5 factors that you would use in order to determine if that was the franchisor you wanted to get into business with?
Well, obviously reputation, its ability to brand, the brand awareness. In my case, what level of support. We did have a franchise business coach that worked with us. They were more of a hindrance than helpful. They were more of a compliance officer to make sure that we were, doing the right thing.
You had the right procedures in place.
I mean, so there, the whole notion is like if you have a McDonald's sandwich or or hamburger in Texas, it's the same hamburger that you're going to have in Arizona. So they wanted to make sure that the procedures were, the same. I like franchises because it was a quick cookie cutter way to get into business. They gave you a CRM system to follow. They gave you operations, standards and procedures. They oversaw some accounting functions. They did the marketing for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the primary things that you need to start a business. So a lot of independent companies would do all those things, whereas a franchisee can focus strictly on doing the actual job itself.
Yeah, it was a business in a box, essentially.
It's a business in a box, absolutely.
Yeah, do all franchisors, based on your experience, basically have the same recipe book for their franchisees?
I think a lot of startups, they all kind of have the same thing. But you've heard horror stories, like Quiznos was one that, you know, I'm not too sure, or Cold Stone Creamery, you know, that was another one that was, there's some that weren't there for the franchisees, and obviously those franchise systems kind of went by the wayside, or became problematic. So I do like them. I think there's a value. I think that as far as like the marketing, let's face it, somebody has a house in the Pacific Palisades, they're going to call ServPro because they know that's a brand recognition, the brand recognition from it. So.
Very interesting. And I did ask the question because I talked to a local new franchisee, and the amount of support that he got or is getting now was, it just seemed like very lackluster. He was, it was very interesting though. But Mo, could you have ever opened up a franchise, do you think? The way you're wired?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You're too much of a rule breaker.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're
Maverick.
We're down approaching the bottom of the hour, so we're going to be wrapping up this segment. If you have any questions for any of us, it's 520-790-2040. And if you are on TikTok, we are on TikTok Live right now. It's sean.campbell.cmo. Unfortunately, I can't respond to anybody who's asking any questions on there.
Sure they can. They can call you.
They can call me, but I got my metas on, so it's going to be kind of weird. It's going to be discombobulated. So really appreciate you listening to Marketing Corner. We'll be back in a few minutes. And welcome back to the Marketing Corner. My name is Sean Campbell. If you have any questions, feel free to call in 520-790-2040. And you can watch us on TikTok Live right now at sean.campbell.cmo. Mo, you had a few more questions for our guest, Rob Siegler, today?
Yeah, I think maybe we should pivot to the whole exit. So my question is, what factors led up to your decision to exit the business? And was it like an all-of-a-sudden decision, or was this something that was building over time?
Okay, so ServPro, the franchise, got purchased by Blackstone in about 2015, 2016. Then they greenlighted the franchisees to go ahead and buy additional franchises, which we did. We bought another license here in Tucson, and we exited from our partnership up in Phoenix, Arizona. There was a thing that was happening, and it was starting to take hold, and you heard a lot about it. It was called roll-ups. I don't know if you've ever heard the term.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have heard the term.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of roll-up going on, especially in the restoration business.
Right. So people started approaching us about a year later. Hey, if you have any interest in selling your business, we were already in the business almost 20 years. It's like, well, okay, my kids were just about graduated from high school, and then obviously into college. They were graduating. So I think there was this notion that we should hang on till they were all out of college, and they all went to the U of A. Bear down.
Nice.
Bear down.
So that was probably one of the factors. The pandemic was the second factor. It was exhausting to deal with, what happened during that time. That was a consideration. But in the end, I think we were running out of gas. My wife and I just didn't have it in us to push through another 5 years to make this great change to scale this business even higher. But most importantly, timing is everything, and the roll-ups were happening. And my thought process was two things. One is early on in our career, we got an opportunity. My partner, we were thinking about separating out. I was in Tucson, he was in Phoenix. We had a great opportunity to sell to him. and we chose not to. We chose to stay together. My wife and I know she's listening, so I'm going to kid her a little about this. We had this subtraction system, like how much you cost me. So the deal was for $1 million, and he came in at $950, and she said, "No, I'll make the money up over the next 10 years."
That's funny.
Needless to say, and I like to use movie references, I go, Leslie, this is a bad decision. We are going to lose, and we're going to lose huge. So we wound up selling it to him for half the price.
Wow.
Because obviously the markets up there changed and the valuations, decreased. So my partner got the franchises up in Phoenix. I kept the one in Tucson, which was growing and doing quite well. That was another thing. I didn't want to lose the opportunity. And I thought, well, how often do these opportunities actually happen? I don't want to lose that opportunity. And maybe we were a little short-sighted. Believe me, it was a hard, painstaking decision to sell out. We had a great business. We were growing. We were doing well with our CFO that we had hired on. The numbers, we were hitting the margin of almost 20% for profit, which is massive.
Wow.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So everything was going good. However, we were drinking a lot, to deal with the anxiety of the business. I was on anxiety medicine. I did a job for a coach here. And that person, I was on heavy anxiety medicines dealing with that person.
Wow.
So all these factors said, to make this change, to take it to the next level, which is what I really wanted to do. And I was definitely going to, Mo, you're going to be a part of that team. We just decided, what's the point? And really, it was just, we just didn't have it in us anymore to take that Herculean effort. And it is a Herculean effort. Anybody who's an entrepreneur, you work half days. 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And that's the only way to get things done. Yes, we could have waited. It probably would have taken another large investment of capital, another 5 years. And it just came down to, is it worth it to us? Is our health worth it to us? Today, you look at me,
You look good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You look good.
Yeah, I've never seen you.
40 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
really.
wow.
Yeah. I looked like a different human being.
Wow. Yeah. This is the first time for the audience, the first time Rob and I met, so, as soon as I saw you, I was like, that's pretty good shape.
Yeah, though the first time
I'm a good-looking guy.
Good-looking dude.
The first time I met Rob, we sat in the conference room in his office, and there was a bottle of Jack Daniels on the table.
Wow.
No, I'm just.
No, but no. I'm going to be vulnerable here too. On Fridays, Saturdays, that's kind of my getaway as well. Maybe not Jack Daniels, but it's like some Mick Ultra and a shot here and there.
Well, we started with like a Thirsty Thursday, which became Thirsty Tuesday sometimes, But that I think that's
run
just,
Thursday to Tuesday.
Well, we weren't on benders or anything, but we did enjoy the spirits, and that was one of the things. We try to find a way to. The employees were changing. They were younger. We were trying to stay relevant, stay cool, and I don't know. We tried our best, and it just was. We were just working harder and harder and harder, and we just decided that was enough for us, honestly. But I think one of the things that changed it was my daughter said to me, she goes, Dad, we would go on vacation, but you were not there.
Huh.
And that was, really like, wow. And she was right. We're always on the phone. There's always a problem to deal with. We were missing vacations. And granted, it was because we just didn't have the right team, in place. And it's hard to find employees in Tucson.
Right.
It's hard to find dedicated people. But they're out there. But we just didn't think that we could do it. And the other thing is that I think my wife and I, we had to get out of our own way.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing the hardest pill to swallow, that you are the hindrance to your business to, continue on the path of success. So just made sense. And I'm not disappointed that we sold. We sold, it was kind of full circle. When we put it out on the wire that, hey, we are interested, we're going to take this now serious. It was at a convention in Dallas. People were coming up to us, hey, we'd like to talk to you. We met with a couple teams, but we chose to go with, they call them teams in Servpro, team this, team that. We chose to go with a team that was out of Missouri. They were young guys, but I had a personal connection. The person that was their chief marketing officer, she was hired by us in 2010 out of the ASU with our franchises up in Phoenix. So she knew us. I felt comfortable having a discussion with her. We did take about 3 offers. We took the offer that was the best fit, but also the offer was a full cash offer. And there was no financing involved. And, it was kind of a cool thing. We sold at the end of the year. We get a wire for, $500,000.
Wow.
And then they flew out the next day or 2 days later with a check for the balance. I'm like, I'll buy dinner.
How was the due diligence process with them?
We did have attorneys involved, which I will tell you that we had an idea what the value was. They had their idea what the value was. We did work with our accountant, and we did work with an attorney that specialized in business acquisitions, mergers, acquisitions. Just the discussion, working with our people, they were able to save us additional money based on the capital gains implications. There's a lot of implications when you sell a business. People don't realize the tax consequences associated with it and how you handle this and how you take all that money and, you have to pay it out. But at the same token, you want to, obviously have something for yourself in the end, because the tax hit on a company, if it's not structured right, is in excess of 30%.
Wow.
Yes. So and that's a lot of money. So
is that attorney based here in Tucson?
No, but the accountant is based here in Tucson.
Yeah.
And he's a pretty well-known accountant here. He's interesting. I'll say that. I'll just leave it at that. I'll show you a picture of him. But he actually has guided us through setting us up properly for the last 12 years. And it's a little more than 12 years. Actually, I met him I was a coach for my daughter's softball team, and I was complaining about having problems with accounting and our taxes. And this lady goes, well, I work for this accountant here in town. I'm not going to give out anybody's name. But he's a little eccentric, and he is. And but he's really good at what he does. And I met with him, and he is like an attorney. He goes, well, I'll take a retainer. And we had a tax implication. We were involved. We're doing things like everybody does. We set up a captive insurance company in the island of Nevis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we did some unique things, and it's all legal. Bit of a gray area. And the IRS sent the note to us. So there's a little bit of a repatriation of money. That's for another day. But he basically said, hey, I don't see what your problem is. I don't understand what the problem is. And that's how the approach has been all, when I brought up different things to him, it's going to be okay. We have a way around this, and don't worry about it. So it was a good experience. He set us up properly for the sale, and then the sale happened, and bingo.
Wow.
We were out.
So how long was that process from the time you decided to sell it to the time you received the final check?
We'll get into the last question because we got 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's why I'm not the host.
Come on, Mo. If you have any questions outside of all the taxes stuff, give us a call, 520-790-2040. You are listening to The Marketing Corner. I'm your host, Sean Campbell. Welcome back to The Marketing Corner. You're listening to the last segment of The Marketing Corner today. And as always, we get into thanking John, our engineer, first and foremost, for guiding us through the show, and all the Marketing Corner sponsors, including Bill Netherton, Professional Bartenders Unlimited, just down the street here from the studios. My buddy David Bradley, Medicare A to Z, Candace Eaton, C. Eaton Photography, Danny McPadden, Lastbridge Media, Mark Weiss, Sales Performance Strategies, Juan J.D. Delgado, Roofs Are Hot, and Jose Oliver, Awakening Minds, LLC. Of course, Mo Rousso, Executive and Business Coach. And a new sponsor that was announced last week, I hope, by David, Robert Callison from E-Force Marketing. He will be co-hosting here in a few weeks. He's going to bring on one of his clients, a very interesting success story there. Next week, though, we do have Howard Stewart, along with co-host Jose Oliver, the aforementioned, or Jose Oliver from Awakening Minds. And don't forget, next Wednesday, February 5th, the hot seat, in which Candid Seat and I do once a month. We're bringing in 2 expert panelists, and we just talk about a topic. We'll have panelists Ryan Shirley and my buddy Eric Spitzer talking about playing to win. Not just sitting on the silence, but getting in there and playing to win. So this last segment, if you don't mind, Rob,
sure.
I wanted to talk about some of your adventures. Now that you've kind of, you've worked, your butt off for how many years with Serpro, you sold your business, inspire us. I mean, what are the things that you've done, and what are the things that you kind of hope to do?
Okay. Well,
that you want to share anyway.
No.
Well, let me just interject for a second.
Yeah.
Can you start with the transition from being the CEO of a business with 40 employees,
right,
to all of a sudden waking up and not having to go into the office? What did that initially feel like, and then how did you transition through that?
Depression.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. Your whole social network just ends.
Huh.
So every entrepreneur, they put everything, their heart and soul into their business. Those are the people you spend your whole day with.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 40 employees, we only stay in touch with 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I was right.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
And how long ago did you sell?
2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago. Oh, wow.
Yeah, almost 2 years to the day.
Yeah.
It was our closing date was like 12/30 or 12/29.
Okay. Yeah.
22, and then
Yeah.
So yes, so we went through that period of, at least I did, where I had a real hard time coping with the whole change. It was tough trying to find activities. I jumped into an MBA program, which I'm finding to be somewhat challenging. I'm still doing it. Preoccupied with other things. I started doing some mentoring, as you're aware of, with some of the employees at Titan to help them, teach them some financial responsibilities and stuff like that, or financial wellness, I guess you'll call it. But as far as the adventures, I think it's important to say, yes, we have had fun. And unfortunately, I think I did a lot of people's, their dreams, and now I'm about to do my own. My dad had a dream before he passed on to, hey, let's go travel around the country in an RV. So we ran out and we bought an RV. Well, we bought a travel trailer, and we went on a month-long trip, which was interesting to say the least. I don't know if you ever traveled with your wife and she doesn't drive one ounce of that trip. It was harrowing. Yeah, so we drove about 5,000 miles. We drove up to Coeur d'Alene.
Wow.
Cut across into Seattle.
Yeah.
Went down to Bend, Oregon. Along the way, we went tubing on the Paiute River. Not tubing, we went whitewater rafting in the Paiute River in Idaho. Partied on into Coeur d'Alene, which is a cool city.
It is, yeah. I have friends there, yeah.
We went into Seattle, went tubing down to Wenatchee. We went to Bend, Oregon. We went to Seattle also. Obviously, it's always a fun city. Went to Wenatchee and tubed the Wenatchee, which I do annually with my friends from college. And then from there, we went to Coos Bay, Oregon, and I caught a 3-foot cod.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Baby.
The swells were really, really tough.
Wow.
And then we went to
a ling cod.
Ling cod, yeah.
Yeah, no, those things go
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, it was 3 foot long,
15 feet
I won
long.
$20 on the boat. Yeah,
Nice.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I had the biggest cod, so that was fun. And then we traveled down to Santa Barbara and then on to San Diego, and came back after a month and said, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of traveling to our kids. Our kids, one daughter lives in Austin, Texas.
Cool.
One daughter lives in Washington, D.C., which is a lot of fun. And obviously we've done a lot of things in Washington, D.C. She got us access into the Senate and did a lot of neat things there.
Yeah.
Recently, I went to Mexico City, which is a great city.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have a lot more adventures. We are going to Hawaii for a couple months. My wife, that was part of her thing, or a gift to herself or us, is to let's have a place that we can bring the families to for the rest of our lives. So we have a place in Hawaii that we're sharing with other people. We're going to be there in Kauai for 2 months, and we shall see if our marriage withstands 2 months together on a very small island. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, if you endured all this, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Well, enduring the travel trailer for a month was challenging for her. I enjoyed it, but she had a bit of an issue with that one.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of traveling, seeing the world. But I believe you were talking about my friend who originally owned Star Auto Glass that turned into Reliable Auto Glass, and he was talking to me about. It's funny, you spend a whole lifetime of accumulating money, and it's I'm still terrified of spending money. It's like, well, this is all we have left, and I'm like, I'm counting the rolls of toilet paper and the sheets left on the roll. My wife's like, we should die with zero. And actually, there's a book called Die with Zero that the guy from Reliable Glass said, hey, if you don't spend your money, then all this effort that you spent, all that pain, suffering, that heartache is for naught. So go out and enjoy it, because your kids are going to enjoy it. They're going to go ahead and fly first class. They're going to go ahead and dine at the finest restaurants. But it's still very hard because I've been brought up frugally. I'm a fairly frugal person. I'm not flashy. So it's a different mindset that, yes, we have this pocket of money, and now it's towards the end of our life that we have to start spending it, and it is a different feeling. And I'm young. I think I'm young. I'm 58, but I had I had breakfast with this young lady about a week or two ago, and she goes, "Wow, happy birthday!" She took me out for my birthday, and she's like, "You're going to be 80 in 22 years." I'm like, "Well, thank you." So life is finite, and at some point in time, you got to get off the bus and realize that you got to. There's more to life than just work, and I think a lot of us in entrepreneurship is like I'll call it La Costa Nostra. It's blood in, blood out, and there was a lot of suffering to go in, a lot of suffering to go out, and now. I guess I should live like what was the gangster that was here, Joe Bonanno, or just enjoy the rest of the life without a lot of fanfare. So I that's where we're at right now, is to hey, let's enjoy life, let's live and enjoy it to the most we can. I've taken up golf.
Oh, cool.
We'll have to try that sometime. I haven't hit a golf club in 2 decades.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's this golf club called a PXG. And it is a phenomenal golf club. So if you're in the military, you get a big discount by buying. It's something that the owner was a Marine, and he started this great golf club business. And they're phenomenal clubs, very forgiving, and it helps to get a nice discount on the club. And I've taken up golf, so I play at least once a week, or try to. And my wife plays once a week, and we're just enjoying things right now. I did purchase another small business. I shouldn't say it's another franchise. It's small. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's more of a job to keep me active. I do like engaging with people, and that's the hardest part. Is when you retire early, is like you want to stay relevant with people. You want to and keep your brain fresh. So that's been enjoyable, meeting different people, but it's. I purchased a job. I didn't purchase a business this time. I'm not going to have employees. It's just something to keep occupied. And we'll see how long it lasts if I, continue on with it. But so far, I've been enjoying the challenges.
So, do you have an operational role in that company?
Yeah, I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. I'm doing it all.
Basically,
back to the But as an entrepreneur, which I believe my whole life, it's a lifestyle. The ride or the fun part of entrepreneurship is just the beginning. I think everybody loves the rush of doing something new, but once it becomes routine, and that becomes the death for an entrepreneur. And I think with the Servpro franchise, if I look back on things, I stayed too long. I don't want to say I'm too old to start something new, because nobody's ever too old to do something new. However, to take on an endeavor of that size with the expectation of getting even bigger, something bigger, starting at 58 years old would be a little difficult. So
I think Ray Kroc was about your age when he started McDonald's.
Yeah, so Come on, Rob.
Well, I'm not Ray Kroc.
But you could be with the right coaching.
Do you see that when people exit and sell their business? You know, you mentioned it wasn't a surprise that Rob fell into a depression. I mean, is that kind of normal?
I don't know if I'd call it normal or not. It sounds to me like, Rob, you were just so invested in your business that kind of became your whole universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, but there are other entrepreneurs who take more of an outward-facing role in their business, right? So they're out there in the community. They're out there handshaking and, you know, so those kind of people usually don't go through the similar type of what do you call it, neonatal, or I don't know, depression that Rob
I you know, it was good. It was just so different. It was odd. And I don't know how to put it in words to effectively describe it, but there was this feeling of like, oh, what do I do now? And that is something that I think we need to have discussions about. You know, there is another part of life other than business, and every entrepreneur is driven business.
Mo, before we leave, do you want to give out a contact information in case anybody wants to reach out to you?
Sure. So it's mo.rousso, ROUSSO @gmail.com.
Yeah. And Rob, thank you so much for sharing. You shared a lot today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You know, it wasn't by far. I mean, you gave us a lot, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the vulnerability you shared with us. That was special today. So thank you, everybody who listened to the Marketing Corner today. Tune in next week, same time, same station. I appreciate y'all. You're listening to the Marketing Corner. I'm your host, Sean Campbell.